G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I'm down here at Darling Harbour, and it's a muggy autumn day. Bit of cloud cover, and as you can see from the Australian flag up there, there's not very much breeze at all. Just been to a union meeting. For those who are not aware, I'm a union delegate for the CFMEU, and once a month we come together, all the delegates, to discuss various issues that occur within the construction industry. And finished early today. It's 12:30, so what I thought I'd do is just do another book summary, another vlog, and try and make the most of this time that I've got between now and when I walk to the bus stop to head on home. Today's book summary is an interesting one. It's entitled Words That Work. Words That Work. And it's one of those book summaries, one of those books that I find absolutely fascinating, because communication, as we'll learn from this book, is more than just throwing out a number of words and hoping for the best. So the author basically makes a statement at the front end of this book summary, where he says that people like you, people like me, have learnt the hard way, or in some cases, some people never learn at all, that words are like fire, and depending on how you use the words, they can either heat your house or burn it to the ground. So this book takes a deep dive, takes an interesting look at words, vocabulary, and how powerful they can be in the right hands, but also how destructive they can be in the wrong hands. So as we mentioned before, and the author reiterates again, is that effective communication is much more than just throwing words out and hoping for the best. The words that we choose to use need to be in the right mix of phrases, gestures, and applied psychology. So this book, Words That Work, by an author named Frank Luntz, takes us on a journey, and we'll see where that journey leads us. So the author makes an important point, and a key point, and a profound point, that we need to acknowledge that certain word configurations activate the human mind, activate the human brain, and it heavily depends on your audience. So it's not what you say, how you say it. It all depends on who you say it to and when you say it to them. Because this author makes a very, very valid point, that your audience determines how they receive the words and the message that they take from it. So you may be intending to say something which is very, very different to how it's received by your audience, and hence some people get very offended at things, and you wonder to yourself, how did you take offense at that? It wasn't my intent. but the mix of words, the cocktail of words, gestures, and psychology, applied psychology, and the audience that receives those words can have a major impact on how effective your communication is and the message that is put out and received. So the author goes on to talk about a little bit more about the art of communication, and the first formal point that comes from this book is where the author says that a good communicator conveys their message in a clear, concise way with a very, very strong focus on the audience that they are addressing. So what we're basically saying here is that it's not the words and it's not the configuration of words, but you need to do some homework. You need to understand your audience, understand the makeup of your audience in terms of their age, their cultural leaning, their background, their education level, because as we said, words can burn and words can nurture, but it all depends on where they are directed and how they are received. Not all audiences are the same, is what we learn and what the author reminds us of. So your language will need to change accordingly. Now, you can't talk to your friends like you talk to a school class. School teachers often have this issue that they think that the world is a school class, and the way they speak to their Year 8 students is the right way that they can speak to anybody. But what we learn in life is that audiences are different for a variety of reasons, and the chemistry varies for a variety of reasons. So you can say a different message, or you can say the same message to the same group in two very different time frames or contexts or environments, and what may happen is that you get a wildly different outcome. We're in election mode at the moment, and what you can see is the media frenzy, which can't wait for the Prime Minister to say something in order to interpret it or misinterpret it and to turn it into something that it may not have been intended to be, but it's received quite violently and quite negatively. We saw it the other day when the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, talked about the fact that he said that he was blessed that he didn't have to go through some of the challenges that parents with children with disability go through. And immediately everybody jumped on the bandwagon and tried to put words into Scott Morrison's mouth that he didn't say and he didn't intend. But with the power of social media and with the ability to shape things in a way which politicizes them, made it all that more interesting and I guess disturbing for a lot of people, because people, I guess, generated the wrong impression of what was meant. But as we said, it's all done through for political means, through the political press, who can be quite aggressive and animalistic at times. So what we're saying here is that not all audiences are the same, and your language will need to change accordingly. and that we need to know that similar words can prompt a different reaction in people. Just different words, different tones, all of those things can shape the outcome in a vastly different way, is what the author is saying. So it's important to understand that, and I learnt this years ago and I find it really powerful, and I try to encourage children of all ages, people of all ages as well, to build the quality of their vocabulary. Because what we know is that the quality of your life experiences, the way you see the world, the way you assess things in the world, is directly related to the quality of your vocabulary. The richer, the broader, the deeper your vocabulary is, then the more nuanced you are able to see the slithers of reality that you come across, and the better you're able to communicate your slithers of reality to yourself, as well as to compare and contrast them to the slithers of reality that other people are able to experience. What I've found out over the years is that people of poor education, people who have a limited vocabulary, tend to experience things at a different level. They don't all get to understand, express and relay their life experiences in a productive way. And I say that respectfully. But as Anthony Robbins once said many years ago, that a Westerner will be able to describe ice with about two or three different adjectives, two or three different ways of describing what ice is. But yet an Eskimo may have 100 different ways to describe the types of ice, and each of those different ways has a massive impact on their survival and how they're able to relay what is happening to their fellow people. So it enhances education, it enhances their communication and makes it more nuanced, it makes it finer, it makes it more accurate and clear. So this is one of the points that this author is trying to say, that the quality of your life experiences is directly related to the quality of your vocabulary. And that's why it's important to learn as many words as you possibly can and understand them and have them defined clearly in your mind and use them. I know for myself, now I speak English and I speak Greek, but my Greek is nowhere near as refined as what my poor English is. So when I'm communicating to people in Greek, I feel quite limited in my ability to express my feelings. I can express myself far better in English. I can express myself to the full spectrum of my capability. And yet, if I was doing this vlog in Greek, it would be at a more elementary level. So the words that you use can impact how a person feels, how an audience feels about what you're saying. And you can say things in different ways. And the author gives us a wonderful example of how saying the same thing using different words or different forms of expression can have a vastly different impact and response from an audience. And the example that the author uses is that somebody can say that the money is going to be allocated towards welfare. or they can say that the money is going to be allocated for the poor or towards the poor. So what the author here is saying is that by saying that there is money going to be allocated to the poor, generates a greater level of compassion when you hear it like that. Whereas when you hear it with respect to money being allocated to welfare, then it's more of a political statement. So what the author here is saying is that choosing your words wisely, being very discerning with how you use your words, will also influence the emotions and the feelings that you have in your life, but also the feelings that you engender in other people. I remember years ago going to a sales boot camp by Tom Hopkins, and he said that when you're negotiating with customers, what you should never do is refer to something as a contract. And I learnt this and I used this when I was running a mobile phone business with my wife years ago. He said that by calling something a contract, makes people freeze. It scares people and it makes people try and push it away and do it at another time. He said whenever you want somebody to sign a contract, you should always refer to it as the paperwork. Let's finalise, or let's just go through and do the paperwork. And he says keep it casual, keep it low key, don't make it the focal point, else you'll spook your customer and potentially lose your sale, because people all of a sudden get very, very fearful when legalities are introduced. So the author here in this book says by all means say what you have to say, but keep it simple and keep it concise, and talk slowly and relaxed so that you don't raise potential red flags to other people that could stifle your communication and can influence the message that you're trying to pass on. Remembering that it's not what you say and how you say it 100%. It depends on your audience and how they receive it. So you want your audience to be relaxed. You don't want them spooked and activate their reptilian mode of thinking and operations. You don't want any cortisol secreted into their bloodstream, where instead of being rational, they become irrational, and they become fearful, and they freeze, or they fight, or they flight, or they try to escape. So some really interesting points coming out of this book. And I've got to tell you, it's bloody warm today. It's an autumn day and it's the equivalent of a summer's day. Just unbelievable. So the next point that the author makes in this book is where he talks about the concepts of personalization and humanization in your communication. And he says that we need to use these techniques to appeal to our audience, because Aristotle told us years ago, so we're talking about 2,300 years ago, the wonderful philosopher, the wonderful ancient Greek philosopher who followed Socrates and Plato, the third one in that magnificent group, Aristotle, says that we need in our communication to target two things at the same time, to target the ration and the pathos. So to target the logic, so to be rational in what we're saying so that people can understand what we're saying, they can get us, but you also need to stimulate their emotions as well, because emotion creates motion, and motion creates emotion. So you need to move people in order to persuade them and to get them to, receive you in positive light. So in humanisation, what the author is saying here is that we need to use words that make things look, sound and feel familiar, because we love familiarity. We feel comforted with familiarity. So the key point that the author is saying is to humanise things by making it feel comfortable and familiar. And personalisation, on the other side, is where we include details, where we try and include details and to talk about personal experiences, to personalise it so that people can relate to it, because they can feel it, they can see it, they can see themselves in our situation, they can see themselves on that boat coming towards me here. So the objective of our communication is to unite rather than to divide, and we need to be able to address the many concerns that people have, or the perceived concerns, in the things that we talk about, so that they are comfortable and are not spooked, is the point that we're trying to make. So the last point to come out of this book is where the author says how important it is to know your audience. Know your audience is absolutely key. So I'll just go on the other side and see the boat coming through the other side there. So knowing your audience and knowing yourself. Socrates was big on this, and at the treasury there at Delphi, those wonderful words are available for everybody to see. Words and concepts that are thousands of years old, almost 2,500 years old, where we are reminded to time out, like that boat says, but to know yourself and know your audience. And we need to be able to leverage and use empathy to be able to relate to them, and for them to be able to relate to us. We're called to show that we understand them. We are called to be appreciative, to be open, to be casual, and to be grateful. So there we go. Another book summary, another glorious Sydney day. I'll head back home now because I'll be spending some time with my granddaughters, doing some babysitting, or a little bit more than babysitting now, because they're 4.5 and 2.5. So we'll go home and see what we're going to do. But I've thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to go through another book summary on Jim's 5am Club. And today's book summary was a cracker, entitled Words That Work by Frank Luntz. I've got my notes here, so I did them on the bus on the way in this morning. I start every day virtually the same. I'll get on the bus, I'll talk, I'll read my notes for about half an hour, take my notes, and then at the first opportunity be able to deliver my book summary. That little cart over there, pulled up next to the bench where I've got my seafood that I bought at the seafood markets today. I was worried that he was going to pick it up and take it away with him. I wouldn't have been too popular with my daughters going home empty-handed after promising them some prawns and what else did I get? I got some prawns and some sashimi. Anyway, take care everybody. Look after yourself. Have a wonderful Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. And the weather looks great. I hope to make the most of it, go down the beach hopefully, and get back into my swimming. I haven't done swimming for a while, but from all accounts, I've heard that following the months and months of rain, the beaches are now fairly clean, and the water temperature is around about the 22 degrees, which is just perfect for lap swimming. I don't know how my fitness level is going to be, given that I haven't done it for about 6 months, but I'll give it a crack and hopefully talk about it on my next book summary. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining me on Jim's 5am Club, and we'll chat again soon. Signing off from Darling Harbour on this wonderful Friday Sydney autumn day. Bye for now.